everyone watching at home. Welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Jasper. I'm with CITR. And we're going to kick off the first ever Victory Square watch party here at the Redgate in Vancouver. Thank you so much for hosting us, Redgate. Thank you to our sponsors, Music Waste and Mint Records. Before we begin anything, I would like to introduce a very special guest who's with us today. She's worked with CITR a lot, with CJSF, with Co-op Radio. Last year, she was honored with the Legend of Radio award from the NCRA, which is a really big deal. So everyone at home, please clap along with me and welcome Gunnar O'Sullivan to the stage, Legend of Radio. Could it be the one if I could get in?
Hello, everybody in Vancouver, and to all of the listenership of CITR Radio. I'm going to kick you off by thanking the Tsleil-Waututh people, the Musqueam, and the Squamish or the Squamish for inviting us to their territory and allowing to do this very important work. First Nations people in the West Coast understand how important communication is. We value it with our hearts, and we come from an oral story background, which means we listen, we watch, we witness, and we retell that story to our own communities. We say, you know what happened at the Alvin Alfred potlatch? I saw Nimkish Young Ing get her Indian name, and her name was Talasala. And this was given to her by Alvin Alfred. And so that is what it sounds like in our community from as long as I can remember. And so that's why radio has always been really important to me. I've valued it since I was 19, and I'm now 55 years old. And I've been working with Co-op Radio, CITR, and CJSF. And I've always been welcomed and treated well by each and one of those stations. And I have found them all going above and beyond their own responsibilities in fulfilling some of the needs in the Aboriginal community here. So thank you very much for that. It's important. When I started off, I was working with Spirit Song Theatre Company, and there was no connection between the Indigenous community or community radio to the extent that it could have been. Even though we're all in the same territory, living and breathing the same air, there was not much of a connection there, and it was just part of our healing and what we were going through at that time. So I recognized this, and I met my brother Raymond Williams when I was 19 years old. And Raymond Williams lived in Burnaby. I lived in Mission all my life. We lived 60 miles apart and didn't know each other until we were 19 because we were part of the 60 Scoop generation. That's how I came to work with radio, and he was told that I was a poet and that I should really work on that, and he encouraged me a lot to continue on with radio. So maybe I'll start you off with a poem. This poem actually got published last year in a book called Salt Chuck City. I see you there representing the people, you barely Indian at all. Or sit, or is it that I am too Indian? I should just crawl and crawl away and die. I see you there representing people when you barely know yourself, causing a disruption about protocols, causing a disruption about appropriation. I see you there, hogging all the stories to yourself. I see you there taking credit for all the Indians as you ride in on your Indianness, telling us all how to live. I see you there sitting on council, shining your civil ideas upon us like your little Indians being called upon. I see you there playing me on TV, playing me like the old days, playing me braids and in a teepee, playing me hard, or maybe as a leader of a gang or a corrupt chief. I see you there playing me for everything I'm worth, playing me until you're all played out and discarded like yesterday's Indian. So I guess you would call that my latest published poem. But with COVID and everything, I've been living in isolation just like all of you. I feel like I lost my voice when our radio station, Co-op Radio, was shut down at the height of COVID. And I felt lost without my community. So I started writing more poetry, which actually saved me. Actually, one day after another. Some of it I can't share with you because it's kind of has some profanity in it. That's how bad I was feeling. Really bad. So I won't share any of that with you. And then I find that when as a poet, that I tend to censor myself more than I do as a radio broadcaster or a painter or a live streamer or an actor. It's a funny thing. And I've met a lot of different poets too, and I'm sure they're all censoring themselves word for word sometimes, because once the word's out there in print, you know, it's out there for good, and there's really no coming back from that. So you have to be careful. But anyway, I can't find a poem in here, but I will. I'll just sit here and I'll share with you my first poem. And the reason I keep sharing it with you is because I feel like this poem, it still speaks to the issues that we deal with as Aboriginal people today on our very own land. We deal with a lot of incarceration, child apprehension, and death. So this one is called Aboriginal Original. I am a certain kind of a person, an Aboriginal original, and though some treat me like a criminal, I've had my chances. Chances my type rarely get. Not to worry, don't you feel sorry, as others appoint their form of punishment to those just like me. Just like me. Just like me. We are never the same. My type were different. A mysterious sort. Yet we are a threat. Always have been and always will be. I'm not mistaken. I'm not mistaken. I'm not mistaken. I'm not mistaken. Some rights for you and no rights for us. Right? 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 No. Our questions are alive, and so am I. Yet you continue to evade what we have to say. Should we all be like you? Should we all be like you? You, the man that takes all he can, from Aboriginal woman to Aboriginal land. Aboriginal girl still suffers from things being done. It's all in fun. It's all in fun. It's all in fun. But now, the land is suffering too. She's hard to find. So where do you stand? You're standing on Aboriginal land. So that was my first poem. I wrote that during the Oka crises, and it was my first published poem, and that was in 1990. And I wrote that poem as I began my journey in finding myself as a First Nations woman, an Indian woman, living in an urban environment, virtually invisible unless there is a blockade, virtually invisible if there was a child that needed to be taken, virtually invisible if someone needed to be arrested. Until then, we were invisible. So I had written a number of other poems after that, and they were published in the Algonquin Gathering. It was an Algonquin Gathering anthology. And Algonquin is spelled E-N'_OWKIN. And they have a publishing company called Thetis Books. And that's where another way that we can express ourselves as Indigenous people who are holding on to stories, language, and even ideas for the future. You know, you can go and find out about yourself. If you're lost like I was back in that day, you can go to the Algonquin Center in Penticton. You can stay there for 2 years and be a part of a first FNAP program, which is First Nations education, where you can learn how to tell oral stories, you can learn how to write poetry, how to learn the language and to embrace yourself. And I'm telling you this, the listeners of CITR, because a lot of us are lost. This was me lost in 1990, but there are new ones who are lost now. I'm a little bit farther along in my journey of understanding what the circumstances are that have made me up. That being residential school, intergenerational survival. Intergenerational survivors are those that ended up in foster care and being adopted out. So now we have to deal with those intergenerational survivors, those who were adopted out and fostered out and lost to a system purposefully. So I wasn't going to be this serious with you all, right? But I couldn't help myself. I missed the opportunity to reach out to you and to have some influence on you, and I really appreciate this opportunity. On September 10th, I'm holding an event at 8 East on 8 East Pender. It's a virtual event. We're not going to be invisible any longer, thanks to CITR and Co-op Radio and CJSF and this virtual age that we're living in. So I will be holding an event on September 10th, because September 10th is International Anti-Suicide Day, or Anti-Prevention Awareness Day. And we're having 4 performers come up, starting with the Fraser Valley Drummers, a fellow by the name of Naden Polisari, and then Albert A. Flett, also known as Henry Lee Smith. And we'll be closing with Trevor Angus and son, Blair Angus. We're going to be on radio 100.5 FM for that day, www.coopradio.org. And we'll be bringing it to you and showing you some of our instruments of survival. For me, it's been Co-op Radio, CITR, CJSF. For others, it's singing. It's playing the guitar or the flute or drumming. So we're going to share all of that with you, and we hope that you will tune in, hold your own listening parties on our behalf. Yeah? Can you do that? Oh, you want me to close off with one of my three-word song that I made up? A sentence? I think you can all sing along with me. Oh, do you have the la-di-das, the la-di-das, the la-di-la-di-la-di-das? Do you got, does you have the la-di-das, the la-di-das, the la-di-la-di-la-di-das? And why you got, do you have the la-di-das, the la-di-das, the la-di-la-di-la-di-das? You got, do you have the la-di-das, the la-di-das? I was singing this yesterday for my 15-year-old daughter, and she said after about 3 minutes, "Mom, stop. You've only got one sentence going on there. You're driving me nuts." But me, I sing that song when I'm going nuts. It keeps me going. Believe it or not, it might drive you nuts to hear it, but it's a really fun song to sing, and it'll get you through anything. So have a nice day, everybody, and thank you so much for having me here today.
Gunarji, give it up for Gunarji, everybody. Legend of radio, Gunarji O'Sullivan. Those are really powerful words. Thank you so much for being here and sharing the poems and the la-di-das.
And the la-di-das.
That's a really nice song.
Well,
really
you know,
like it.
misery loves company, right?
Sure, yeah.
So are you falling apart during this COVID season just like me?
You don't look like you're falling apart. Oh, your shirt, you mean?
My shirt.
Yeah, I've got some shirts that are falling apart, but
yeah, I'm falling apart at the seams. So when I do, I'll sing la-di-das.
Yeah, you want to do it? I'll do it with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do you have the la-di-das, the la-di-das, the la-di-la-di-la-di-das? Do you got the, does you have the la-di-das, the la-di-das, the la-di-la-di-la-di-das? And why you got, do you have the la-di-das, the la-di-das, the la-di-la-di-la-di-das? And you can just keep going on.
That goes on forever, hey?
On and on forever.
Well, thank you, Gunarji O'Sullivan. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so our first performer, Turunesh, unfortunately couldn't make it today, but we just want to say a big shout out to Turunesh. Thank you. We hope you're doing great. We're going to throw to our friend Audrey, and she is going to start her show, Too Dreamy. And after that, we'll be up with our first act, Non-La.